This is our second finance video. If you haven't already watched the first one, do check out Ian. He has some absolute amazing insights, but Liz equally has got some other information because not only does she run her own business, she helps businesses with their finance. So she has an amazing oversight of different types of finance and what the pitfalls might be.
Don't just go running in and don't just say, oh, I'm going to make cake tray. And
I have learned so much talking to her. So let's see what you can learn. Hello, Liz from Moneybee. We're so great to talk to you today. So could you explain what your business is?
Yes, I run Moneybee. I do accounting and bookkeeping for sole traders and small businesses in the UK.
So what sorts of businesses do you work with?
Many different types. Some accountants and accountant firms have a niche where they will only deal with one kind of business. But I like to talk to lots of different business owners because it makes it a bit more interesting for me. So I have a couple of cafes, I've got a campsite, I've got a rugby player who goes on the telly and does commentating. I've got somebody who sews medals onto military uniforms, all sorts of things.
Wow.
So I will help anybody.
That is a total mix. So you really see a nice spectrum of businesses. So how do they decide then that they need you, then they need an accountant?
It's one of two things generally. Some people, they just generally do not like numbers, which I can't understand. And the whole thing terrifies them and they see the word accounts and run for the hills. So they ask me to help them, which is good. And excuse me, other people have just gotten too busy and too big and they've got too much other stuff to do in running their businesses. And they say, right, you can do this now, please. Thanks very much.
Amazing. So what is budgeting and finance? What is that aspect of the business?
Very different things. The finance. So when people talk about finance department, finance person, that is basically looking after all the money that's coming in and all the money that's going out and making sure it's all treated correctly, putting it in the right place in the accounts, figuring out what the profit is, figuring how much money people owe to people. And the accounts people will put together the two main documents in a business, which are the balance sheet and the profit and loss. So the profit and loss is your day-to-day, how much money have I got coming in, how much am I spending, how much profit have I got, or loss, hence profit and loss. And the balance sheet is more of a snapshot of the business at a particular time on a particular day to show how healthy your business is. So it shows your assets and your liabilities, and you always want your assets, which is what the company owns, to be more than your liabilities, which is what the company owes to people. So that's what the finance bit is. Budgeting is what you generally typically do at the beginning of a new year, your new financial year. And you think, right, here is day one, nothing. Here is where I want to be at the end of the year. How much money do I want to, how many things do I want to have sold? How much money do I want to have made? What do I want my profit to be? How much am I going to spend on it? And you will go through, you get a spreadsheet or a bit of paper, and you think, right, I want to sell 1,000 of whatever it is I make. I want to sell 1,000 cakes. Here's how much I think I'm going to sell them for, put a rough guess in there. Here's how much it's going to cost me to make them. Here's all the other things I have to pay for, like packaging and maybe somebody to help me make them, electricity bills, advertising costs, so on. And at the bottom of it, you get your money that you want to make, take off the money that you think you're going to have to spend, and that's going to be your profit. And then you would fiddle about with those numbers until you got something that you think is realistic and achievable, and also a good positive number to show that you've made money at the end of it.
Okay, so budgeting is a lot about future and forward planning, and finance is all the day-to-day running.
Yeah, so budgeting is really what you want to happen, and the finance side of it is, generally speaking, is what has happened.
Okay, and so does finance feed into the budgeting then? So
well, yeah, they feed into each other really. So in a lot of when you are in when you're very successful business people, you have your account systems online and you can go in. They've got budget modules where it will take everything historical and it'll suggest a budget for you, and they say, well, I want to make 10% more than last year, or want to add a new product stream, or all of these things, and they both feed into each other, and you can cross-reference things and But if you're just starting out day one of your business, before you do anything else, even before you have done your logo, you need to think about what you are going to sell, how much you want to charge for it, how much it's going to cost you. Is this even going to work? Can I even make this?
So when you're talking about like how much you're going to charge, how do you decide how much you're going to charge? Do you just, I don't know, how do you do it?
There's lots of different things to think about. So you don't just think, well, they charge £10, I'm going to charge £10. You need to think about, a lot of it is looking outside in the marketplace, because chances are what you're going to think about making will exist already somewhere. And if it doesn't, that's brilliant. But if you think I'm going to make chocolate cakes, you would go and look at other chocolate cakes in the marketplace. So you look at a chocolate cake in your local supermarket, you look at a chocolate cake in the bakers, you'd look at a big fancy chocolate cake maker online, look at their prices, the kind of chocolate cakes they are, what kind of people might want to buy them. So supermarket down the road, you've got a chocolate cake for £2.99, brilliant, I'm sure it tastes delicious. It's going to be different to the one in the bakery, which might be a bit more fancy and a bit more icing on top, maybe some ganache, whatever that is. And then if you go to Harrods, you're going to have a chocolate cake in there that probably costs £150 and is covered in gold leaf. So it's very different. And one's going to be £2, one's going to be £10, one's going to be £150. So you need to think about how good a quality yours is going to be and what kind of people are going to buy it, and then look at that kind of market out there and think, right, I'm maybe going to charge £20 for my chocolate cake. Seems about right.
Have to think about your target customers when you're thinking about pricing, because Harrods has a very different target customer.
So it's you're likely to sell more chocolate cakes at £20 than you are at £150, but you are probably going to have people who are a bit happier to pay £20, because generally speaking, if you just go in, I want to be the lowest price on the market, you're not really going to get a very helpful market audience. And they're people that only want to pay £2 or £3 for a cake, probably won't even want to pay that, and they'll try and haggle and think, oh, well, we take £2.50, and you just want to say, right, it's £20, that's it. So
lots of research into your customers and studying the market, but do you have to think about all of your costs as well when you're working out how much to charge people?
Yes, that is the other side of it. So as well as thinking, I'd quite like to charge £20, you then need to go away and get your bit of paper or your spreadsheet and your calculator and think, right, here's what I want to charge, £20, here's how much it's going to cost me, all my ingredients. And yes, you will have to, for each cake you make, it might cost you £1 for a bag of flour, but you then need to figure out how many cakes you get out of each bag and divide the bag of flour by, like, say 6 if you get 6 cakes, and then put in, right, that's how much it is, 18p or whatever. So break it down into exactly how much it's going to cost you in ingredients to make the cake, how much electricity you think it's going to cost. You have to really get into the specifics of it.
Really the nitty gritty, isn't it? Like,
really nitty gritty. So it's going to cost me 5p in electricity. It's the tin that I need to buy, if I just make one cake, I'm still going to need to buy a new tin for it, and that's going to be £10. And so then at the end of it, you will have one cake that I sell for £20 is actually going to make me £1.15 profit. But then you think, well, I'm going to sell more than one cake. I'm thinking I'm probably going to sell 100 cakes in a month. So then you would take that, your little sum that you've done there, times everything by 100, apart from things like the cake tin, because you're only going to buy one cake tin. So then you just split that out over 100. And then you'll suddenly find that if you make one cake, you might make £1.50, but if you make 100 cakes, you might make £4 per cake profit. And then, so you would think that would help you understand what your price needs to be, how many you might need to make. And, well, if I'm going to make 100 cakes, I can probably get a deal with the egg man to bulk buy 100 eggs or whatever you need to make 100 cakes. So then those costs would come down. And that's how you do your budgeting. So a lot of people, if they're not sure how many they're going to make, they will say, right, here's my cost for 1, here's my cost for 10, here's my cost for 50, here's my cost for 100. And then they've got all that in place. Wow, and that's how you would do your pricing.
Amazing. And really thinking through all the pricing and all those little factors that come into it. That's really helpful. So what do you think are the main challenges that businesses have to face with budgeting and finance?
A lot. It's generally, people are very good at budgeting, but they forget to put in like contingency money for unknown things that they don't think about. So you can't, unless you've already worked in a cake making industry where you know exactly what things you need to go into your cake making, you tend to forget stuff. So you might get to the whole thing and then you've gone and bought all your stuff and oh, there you go, it's coming exactly what I thought it was going to. Oh, what am I going to put these in to sell them? Oh, I need to go and buy some cake boxes and some nice ribbon and a sticker. Oh, well, that's my profit gone. So you need to build in some contingency money of something sensible, maybe for a pound of cake or something, which hopefully you won't need, but then it gives you a more realistic, right, you're going to make 50p profit if you make one cake. Yeah. And hopefully you won't need that contingency, but it's a just in case fund, and it's something you need through your whole business, whether you're making one thing or 1,000 things. You need a contingency line in there because you never know what's going to happen. Your mega piece of cake baking equipment could break and you have to buy another one,
and all these costs,
you know, the price of ingredients could go up, especially in a minute, but let's not get into that. Yeah, you just need contingency. So that is, I would say, the biggest challenge, and it is being realistic and sensible. Yes, you would like to sell your cake for £20. You know, maybe you should try selling it for £40, see what happens. Maybe you're never going to sell that cake for £20. Maybe you're only ever going to sell it for £18. You just need to be realistic and sensible and think about everything.
And so you work with lots of different businesses. Is there a common factor you see across all of the businesses in terms of their finance that you could?
Yes. Generally speaking, once people have got an accountant in place, then they think, oh, I've got an accountant, that's fine, I don't have to do anything. But they forget that they need to still be very involved in this side of it. They don't have to be doing it, but they still need to be aware of it and involved in it, and making sure that I have got everything I need to do the job they're paying me to do. So you need to make sure that you've got your admin side in place, because you are going to need to do it. So yes, you may, I keep going back to cakes, we might as well stick on the theme. Yes, you may just love making cakes and that's all you want to do, when you think, well, I'm really good at it, people really like them, I'm just going to make cakes for a living, that's it. And you know, you make cakes and you're very busy, but then you've got this other side of running a business. It's more than just a hobby you're doing for your mates. You are actually going out there and selling, and you've got to report things to people, you've got to put your accounts together, you've got to report to the government about how much tax you might owe them. You know, if you want an investor, if you are doing so well that you are coming into the Lizards Lair saying, oh, can you invest in my business please, they're going to want to know your numbers, and they're going to want to understand the paperwork side of it, and you're going to need to know all that. So whether you're doing it yourself or you've got an accountant to do it, you still need to be involved.
So that really does make it a business, I suppose. So rather than a hobby, you've got to understand that all that administration. And the earlier you can do it, even if you think, well, in the future I'll get an accountant, you still really understanding that from the start is a really good place.
Yes. So from the start, there's some program on telly, something about dragons, and I understand that on there, that one of the main things people fall down on is when it gets to the numbers, because they get so confused, and they've clearly learnt a script that they've got an accountant and says, right, if they ask this, then say this, and it's because they don't really understand it. So it's your business, you want to keep doing it, you're not doing it for free probably, and so you need to understand how you can make it as successful as possible, and to do that you need to know the numbers basically.
And I suppose it's making it a viable business. Like I said, if it's not free, it's going to start costing you money, which
exactly. That'd be rubbish.
So you actually run your own business as well, doing all this accounting. What is your favorite part of running your own business?
I enjoy running my own business. I mean, I have been employed and worked for other people doing this in other businesses. And I like doing this for myself because I can decide what my business does. So rather than sitting frustrated at a desk in an office working for somebody else going, oh, I wouldn't do it like that. Oh, I've had a really good idea for a project. Oh, I can just say, oh, I'm just going to do it. And there's still that amount of pressure on it. It's still like having a boss, because I am my boss and I don't want to let myself down. So I kind of make more sure that I'm making as much effort as I can. And if I think I've got a good idea, I'll have a little meeting with myself, a cup of coffee, and think, right, is this a good idea? Is anybody else doing this? Has it worked for them? And, you know, I can do all the research into it and then think, I'm just going to do it. And I don't have to go and get approval and get things signed off. And
You can just get stuff done.
I can just do
like
stuff,
that,
and if it doesn't work, then it's, you know, I learn my lessons from that and have a meeting with myself and think, yeah, that wasn't very good, and kind of think about why. And then if it does work, it's fantastic because you've done it all yourself. And hooray, and you know, you can help people as much as you can, and it's just lovely. It's just very satisfying being your own boss, because you know you're not just working for somebody else, making them richer than they already probably are.
So what advice would you give to budding entrepreneurs then? What could you
I would say, just don't just go running in, and don't just say, oh, I'm going to make cake 3, and you know, don't just then don't go into your kitchen and make 40 cakes and then, you know, put them in your window and say, does anybody want a cake? You need to really think about what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. Do people want it? Are they going to pay that much for it? Why is my cake better than that cake in that baker's shop over there? Do I have a little angle? Who is it I want to be selling to? Why do I want to sell to them? And just really, really think about what it is you want to do and why you want to do it. And that will help you understand who your market is going to be. And that will help you shape everything else. So, and just make sure that you're thinking about all the aspects of your business, not just the making of the cake.
That is brilliant. Thank you so much for your time, Liz from Money
You're
Bee.
welcome.
You have been absolutely brilliant. That's been wonderful talking to you.
Thank you, Samantha.
It was so helpful listening to that, and contingency money is really important. She's one of our judges as well, so do take note of some of her things to help you out with your planning your businesses. We can't wait to see how you get on in the finance section. Keep going though, you are doing so brilliantly if you have got this far and you're planning some finance. Any sort of finance planning is really important, so well done if you are, and look forward to our next video.